So yeah, all across the world, because the Portuguese have been selling oranges for many years, you know. So for some countries, Portugal is a synonym of oranges, alright? But not the sour ones.
Those are lemon.
Today is used actually for a school. This is the area where once the nuns were living, right? But no longer. In the 1950s, we'll arrive to Belém. Belém is, of course, the closest area to the ocean. It's the west side of the city. We started in the east side building. That's the Museum of Carriages, much more impressive inside. One of the biggest collections in the world, comparable to the one you have in Vienna, in Austria. All right, on your right, the concrete building. It's the Carriages Museum. If you want, you can stay here to visit after we do our program. On your right, you see where our president lives. You see the area. It's a cultural center, but that was the type of things that existed here back then. Shipbuilding, fishermen, a big harbor, a couple of churches and monasteries, a fortress, a tower to protect Lisbon from possible invasions. Imagine if they were invading Lisbon by sea, always they had to pass by Belém, so that's why the tower that we're seeing now from the outside was built in the first place to protect Lisbon. But it was not used, not even once, because the invasions we had with the Spanish and the French were always by land, so in the end...
They're just cleaning it. The church itself is already clean.
still be champions. Very well.
Jerome Church. Remember the columns of the church, like the palm tree forest? It's similar to the train station, alright? The train station was inspired by the Church of St. Jerome, where we just were. But this is, of course, already from 1998. There's also a metro underneath. This is a part of the red line. All these things. All of a sudden, I look and I see a head inside a jar. And the other day I was mentioning this story. I opened my cell phone Instagram page. First thing appears the video with the head inside the jar. So it's everywhere now. It's I have dreams with this head even. Just kidding. But yes.
Apart from that, it was not that affected, the palace, and the palace was not always this big, by the way. Original palace was just the central part with the chimneys. It was built 700 years ago. Compare the windows. This was 700 years ago. It's still influenced by the architecture. So the original palace was everybody can do the well. So if you're coming, I'm very happy because I think it's one of the highlights. And it's important to do it to fully understand the meaning of the initiation concept and the philosophy that Carvalho Monteiro has. We can start speaking a bit more about this man now while we walk slowly. For children, inspired in his book, the Lusians, right? But what was there earlier? It's generator, right? This is a place which had electricity, right? We're talking about 1912. We had a German diesel generator inside that provided electricity for the palace, but also for the public license. That was the plan.
This is actually a chimney.
Yeah.
That's caused by the storm recently. That was just last week.
Quando eu fui aqui agora, eu não convido para ir para as obras.
Whoa. Whoa. Tammy. Nice. walking up the tower.
Which side is bigger than the other one? So a branch is the smallest.
Tammy. Delicious. What kind of soup are we eating? Vegetable. It's yummy. Hit the spot. Here's the UNESCO sign.
Small villages in this area, but not much population, a few hundred people in each of these small villages. And there's the bikes, there's always a lot of motorbikes coming here to drive this road in the weekends. And it's a two-way street, as you noticed. So yes, oh, there's this lady always very optimistic about trying the clothing. You see on your left, she always tries the clothes in the afternoon, even if it's raining, she always tries. Today she got a bit more to dry the clothes, but here it's one of the worst places to dry your clothes because it's so much humid. So in the end, it takes a long time to dry it, unless the wind is very strong and there's less humidity, but it's not as easy here as in Lisbon. Going to stop just after the lighthouse. I remind you the name of the place, Cabo da Roca, the Rocks Cape, most western point of mainland Europe, because if we're counting the islands, then it would be the Azores, of course, which is also Portuguese territory. On your right you see the waves. They might be bigger tomorrow in Nazaré, we'll see. You see people hiking, quite dangerous to do that. There's some difficult hikes.
Jump. One more. One more, Tammy.
We never know. Even without waves, Nazaré is one of the most beautiful towns in Portugal. But here on the right you see that area did everything. Last week we couldn't do this drive. Now on your right you will see a few buildings. These are mostly restaurants. You cannot build anything new here anymore ever since the 1970s. This is protected, the dunes.
Neste caso, com os homens será mais fácil, porque muitos vão querer mais, mas se não fizerem, eu pego-nos.
Ginger. This has chocolate in it.
Renaissance style, the first Baroque church will be built in Nazaré, which shows you the wealth of the town.
Also be the beach down there, but
You see that, well, our hotels are working because they have generators. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any electricity, right? There, you see that there's a lot of damage to some of the electricity cables we see around here. I'm not sure about how many people have electricity in Fátima at the moment. I know the restaurants also have generators and they're working, but I imagine some of these houses might still have no electricity at the moment. Yes, as you can see, it was quite bad. I was in Portugal with another group when this happened, and yes, Fátima was much worse, much worse. It was the worst time. Was the worst area was between Fátima Lady and the 25 kilometers around here. The heaviest winds, but they don't expect so strong winds in the evening. It's mostly the rain, the problem for today. So the wind shouldn't be too strong. it was much stronger. You see on your left there's cork trees. This tree with the number 5, it's a cork tree. You'll see a lot of trees with numbers because they put the number every time they harvest the cork. They harvested it in 2015, this year actually, last year, 2025. You see the 5 on your left, there's a cork tree with the number 5. It means they harvested the cork 2025 in August.
Every 9 years you can harvest it, right? So it's a long process. That's why the cork is so expensive, right? But it's very good. It protects the tree from the fire, even though it's not fireproof. It does not burn as quickly as the other trees. It's waterproof as well, so for the shoes it's very nice. And it's very dense material. It isolates music, the sound, the temperature, humidity. So that's why we use it also for the wine, to protect the wine inside the bottle, right? So it's half of the world's cork comes from Portugal, right? That's why it is so common.
100 years. We are in Coimbra. Used to be a church, but it's now a university.
The Sophia Street, the Wisdom Street, but after 1290, the first once they did it, they had a long stick, a little bit like the gondolas to steer it across the canals. But yeah, this is the type of boats I was talking about, right, my friend? So quick take pictures.
And the rain comes down.
this goes down, so always be careful when this is talking. This goes down when the car arrives. They have a card, they show it right there in that scanner, and this goes down, and then it...
Street of Flowers. That's the Stock Exchange Palace. And the rain coming, Tammy. More. On the left side over here is Gaia, and on my right is Porta. Getting hot, Tammy, from climbing up here? This McDonald's used to be where all the writer and authors meet to write and talk until the government took them over.
Years ago, instead of dedicated to the Holy Spirit, this was dedicated to a Roman goddess, to Flora, responsible for the good harvests in the springtime. So the Romans then became Christians, and then they Christianized a lot of different pagan festivals, and this one was adapted, converted, and dedicated to the Holy Spirit. Still today, it's a Christian festivity. That every year happens. All right, you see the army is helping with the transportation of the trees. There was a truck that just passed right here. conduct this maybe later, you can do that. It's actually still standing. I heard, I guess, it was maybe
our little hike in Tomar.